Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Poe from the Offenders, DC Diverse Online, PC US server. I'm actually here on the public test server right now, messing with some of the changes, and I figured now's as good a time as any to release a new video. I know it's been a while. I was going to release one back in December when they did a big Sorcery update, and I'm kind of glad I didn't, because they've since released even more updates for Sorcery, and they've introduced Weapon Mastery. So I'm going to kind of make this a hybrid Weapon Mastery Sorcery update video. Now, Weapon Mastery directly affects the way we spend our skill points. It made skill points far more useful than they ever were, which is a good thing. It also made, gives you a really long-term picture for what we're going to be spending skill points on for quite a while. If you go to any of the weapon trees, I'll use bow for example since that's what I have equipped. You will see a new Weapon Mastery thing to buy in the top right corner of the skill tree. Now, it costs 1 skill point to buy the mastery itself, but you see there's a long list of requirements that is needed in order to buy that 1 Weapon Mastery node. The first requirement is you have to have 20 skill points spent into bow. Now, that's a big ask, especially for people who maybe only have 40, 50 skill points. If you are below, I would say like 90 skill points, roughly 7. I think somebody in my league once said like the minimum you need was like 60 to be able to just buy 1 mastery. It's probably not as effective until you're bought into a couple trees. So if you're relatively new to the game or new to the end game, keep in mind that while Weapon Mastery might not apply to you directly now, it will in the future, so keep this in mind. Now, what this mastery buys you, I am not even showing yet. Weapon Mastery buys you these 2 bottom tiers of rows of nodes. Now, before at launch, this tier 1 of nodes was actually the bottom, and about a year or so into the game, or maybe even longer, like a year and a half, they added this second row of nodes. Now, this adds tiers 3 and 4 of the skill point tree. Now, tier 3 is simply weapon attacks, but it's weapon attacks from other trees. So you see there are 2 moves here from dual pistols and 2 moves here from martial arts. For every weapon, they added 2 melee attacks and 2 ranged attacks from other weapons. Now, in order to buy this dual pistol attack that I have and this martial arts attack that I have, I also need to have the weapon masteries and the abilities bought in both those other trees. For martial arts, for example, I needed the smoke bomb ability. Now, in order to buy the weapon mastery in martial arts, one of the requirements actually was not smoke bomb. So in addition to buying my way down and buying all the required attacks and buying the weapon mastery, had I not purchased smoke bomb, I would not have been able to buy the smoke bomb weapon mastery attack in bow. So you actually have to have the ability purchased also. As you can see, one of the requirements here is have bow mastery, have weapon mastery, and have smoke bomb. So once you have all 3 of those, you're able to spend another skill point here to buy it. And the tier 4 is just hard stats, but they are the most plentiful and the most worth it skill points you can spend. So as you can see, this 1 node here, for every skill point you spend in it, gives you 25 might and 25 precision. That's 75 of each once you buy all 3, versus over here you will notice it is 3 precision per skill point. So buying all 6 of these and using 6 skill points only gets you 18 precision from this node here, where spending 3 skill points gets you 75 precision in addition to 75 might. It really kind of changes the way that you look at speccing, because before I would basically buy my way into every tree, and then I would click on the things at the bottom of the tree, and then towards the end I would just start buying these diminishing return boosts. I'd buy all the precisions and all the mights, and then I have not roughly the same skill points on my main. I have 4 more skill points. I'm at 148. So it's not all too different, my spec on the main server than on the test server. But I'm not buying into every tree, which is kind of interesting. I do have an armory set up where I just have 1 skill point spent into each weapon just so I can equip weapons and get styles. When they drop, I just pop that armory to do that. But it's really kind of unique in the way that they're changing the look of the game, and I really like it a lot, because it made skill points far more scarce and far more valuable than they were before. Because before I was just running out of things to spend skill points on. I was just buying a bunch of health, a bunch of defense, I mean, health is always nice, but you're never going to be able to buy enough of it to make a difference. I mean, say you have 100 more health than somebody else. I mean, one piece of gear is going to have way more health than that anyway. So, okay, now I quickly popped over to my heal armory just to show you guys an example. Now, if you do not use these weapons, that's fine. Just keep in mind that for healing, these are kind of important. So the brawling tree is one of the few trees that has both critical healing chance and restoration. A lot of trees, like for example martial arts, which was before, you know, one of the ones you always wanted to spec into because it had restoration at the bottom, has a critical healing chance, but then in the tier 2 abilities there's no restoration. So unless you have infinite skill points, or you know, you're using martial arts as your weapon, you want to try to avoid using these trees like that, you know, don't have restoration in tier 2. Also, you want to try and prioritize using the ones that have critical healing chance just over the critical healing magnitude, because I mean the critical healing magnitude is nice, but only start buying those skill points once you have the chance, because you want as high a chance as possible, like always. So rifle's another tree that has both critical heal chance and restoration. Two-handed is also another one. There's not many, there's only a handful. Most of the other ones that have restoration on the tier 2 abilities have magnitude. So for example, in my heal loadout, I use staff. And you actually notice how there's 3 staff abilities I did not have purchased just to maximize my skill point spending. I only bought 4 in because you only need to buy these 2 and spend 20 skill points to gain staff mastery. And I just bought these also because you have to buy your way down to access the tier 1 ones. I spent 3 skill points on the magnitude, 6 skill points on the restoration, 6 on the power, just because I had to spend more points in here. If you're ever buying into a tree and there's tier 1 health or tier 1 power, focus on buying, let me see if I can find a quick example, like here. You'd be spending 3 skill points here instead of the 3 skill points here to buy the 20, because 1 skill point here is going to give you 12 power instead of giving you 6 power. So if you had to spend 6 skill points and both of these trees were available, instead of dumping 6 into here, put 3 into there and 3 into there just to give you the most available. Also, if there's health in the tier 1, buy it, just because you're going to be getting so much more health than you would be if you were just dumping stats into the tier 2 skill point nodes, just because the returns are so diminishing. The second you spend, let me go into brawling. I do not use brawling. It's another one of the trees that I wanted to just dump 20 skill points into. You will notice I bought the 6 restoration, the 3 critical healing chance, the 3 health. Now I did not buy the weapon mastery, so you're asking why did I dump 20 skill points into it. You actually have to dump 21, because the second you spend 21 skill points into a tree, you're actually able to purchase the tier 4 things. Now I don't care about putting weapon mastery things in here. I use staff. The only other thing I have bought weapon mastery in on this loadout is rifle, because I wanted the mortar attack to use with my staff, which is why I have only 1 bought there. Once you have the weapon mastery setup that you like, you find the weapon that you like, you find the combo that you like into the other weapon, then just prioritize spending 21 skill points into any tree, and then buying the 3 innates that just boost your stats at the end, because the returns are ridiculous. This is 21 restoration for 6 skill points versus 90 restoration for 3 skill points. Buying your way into every tree and only getting critical healing chance, critical healing magnitude, and then what extra couple points of restoration you can here or there is not worth it. Buying all the tier 2 restoration in all of the trees with less skill points is not worth buying only into 4 or 5 weapons and getting as much restoration as possible. I mean, the jump is pretty significant and it's highly worth it. Now I'm back into my DPS armory, and I'm just going to show a quick example of what weapon mastery actually looks like. The reason you would want to pull off a weapon mastery combo for DPS is because the damage returns on successfully pulling off a combination are pretty significant. Like before, your average DPS rotation would be to maximize a weapon ability and then clip it into an ability from your loadout. And now it's not so much the same anymore. It's almost the exact opposite. You want every animation to play out. A bow user before might set up a couple dots, throw down one dot here, one dot there, put up a weapon buff, and then just try and maximize their rotation into clipping into something. Now, pulling off a weapon mastery ability is pretty significant boost in damage. As you can see, that one did just a clip burst of 5,000 damage. There's also something that is pretty interesting. If you read the description of the weapon mastery abilities, it says, using a dual pistol, perform a high damage version of Magnum round. Using a superpower at the moment the Magnum round impacts will increase your superpower's chance to crit by 360% and its critical damage significantly. So what that basically means is if you get the timing down correctly on when your weapon mastery combination hits and you hit an ability, your ability will crit significantly. As you see, you get that little circle that goes around you with accompanied by a sound effect. That Vengeance hit for almost 2,000. A normal Vengeance, well, that was a crit for 1,000. Oh, I'm getting lucky with the crits now. This is kind of ridiculous. Alright, there you go. Your normal Vengeance is going to hit for about 500. That's actually kind of on the high end, too. Normally they hit for me between like 450 and 500. It's kind of crazy, the crits that you can get off. If you go into a combination with the proper buffs, see, that was a non-crit for 560. If you go into them with the proper buffs, you get some pretty crazy returns on them. As you can see, it says Vengeance hit the sparring target for 542 that time. This is pretty awesome because there's also support role buffs. For healer, I have my staff. And it's really the reason I like staff is because you can pull off the weapon mastery pretty quickly. It's just 2 holds. And when you pull it off, it gives you reduced power costs on your heals. So if you time it right, you will be spending far less power on your heal abilities. Also, it keeps you pretty far back, keeps you ranged, keeps your power costs down, doesn't get you in the mix. I could just spam them over and over again, and anytime you don't need to cast anything, it also builds up your hit counter at a pretty solid rate. So if you just keep doing it over and over, you'll build up your supercharge pretty quickly. You'll have a pretty high hit counter, and then when you actually need to hit a weapon mastery ability, you'll have more power than you did before. And I don't know what's going on with that sparring target. But yeah, it's super worth it. It makes the game kind of gives you a little game that you want to play with yourself when you're healing. You kind of want to decide, do I want to spit out a heal now, or can this person survive me to build up a quick weapon mastery before giving them a shield, or before giving them a heal, or before dropping an AoE heal. I don't know. I really enjoy the game. It also makes you do more damage, which always helps, especially in the new tier 6 alert where everything has far too much health. I'm going to get into the meat and potatoes when it comes to changes in sorcery and how you want sorcery to mesh with weapon mastery now. Now, since I'm still in my healing armory, I'm just going to go into the healing first. Now, I was always big on just having both healing and DPS spec'd at the same time, and up until armories came out, that's still how I played the game. The first time we beat Paradox and Nexus and all those times, and you know, I was still dual spec'd always. But the second armories came out, did not become as as important, because I could always be fully heal and fully DPS spec'd at any one time. For healing, there's a lot more variety now. They've done some pretty good changes. There's no one way to heal anymore, which I like. A lot of people like using the pet, which is cool. Go for it if you like it. They're not anywhere near as horrible as they were before, thank God. Now, my current loadout that you'll see is Circle, like always, Rejuvenate, Invocation, Boon of Souls, Ritualistic Word, and Transcendence. Now, Ritualistic Word I swap out from time to time with Soulwell. It kind of depends on the situation that I'm going to be in. It's a great instant heal. The animation is just a fist pump. and it spits out a heal to 4 people that need health, and it's really bursty, so it's a great upfront burst heal for 3 people that need health. It's almost like an instant weaker version of this Invocation of Renewal, except it costs more power. Now, Invocation, the reason I have them both on there, this is kind of my emergency heal loadout. If I'm kind of fighting my way to a boss room, I will purposely swap, like, because there's lots of trash ads, so that offering for the soul well, because you're going to be, lots of things are going to be dying. It's going to be giving you a lot of free heals, and nobody's really in danger of dying when you're fighting trash mobs. But when you get into fighting a boss, it's always more helpful to have, oh, it's not letting me change it because I'm in combat, but in a boss fight there's usually less ads, so you're gonna want to have more of an instant heal. Now, I don't always do that. I mean, you could pretty much pass anything in the game with one or the other on the loadout at any time, especially now with everybody in gear far above the highest raids. For the tier 6 alert, for example, I mostly just use the healing, the instant heal versus the soul well, just because that's what I prefer having it on there. The soul well always works though. Ritualistic word, that's what it's called. I keep forgetting its name. It's how sacrificial offering was before they changed sacrificial offering. That's why. Also, you will notice that there's a new trinket that you can get. It's a breakout trinket. A 92 one you can buy from the vendor in the Amazon area, staging area, and then or Gotham Under Siege. And the 91 one drops in the alert. The breakout trinket I use in PvE for just canceling animations if I need. So it'll break you out of this if your soul well is on cooldown or dropping the circle. It's also pretty useful in DPS. As far as changes in the healing tree go, the Shard of Life is better than it was, but I still can't wholeheartedly recommend it. The Summon Watcher, it works well. It heals okay. It's just all the other heals are so good and efficient. I just never feel like it's necessary to have a pet out. Also, this heal and this heal are like this is not a heal anymore offering. All it does is it gives your pet a shield and power over and power back, power over time. So I mean, I don't see anybody really using this unless it maybe you're leveling up and you want a tank, or if you want to solo challenges with the tank pet. This guy, the Guardian, it'll shield it and give it power. I just don't see it being necessary. As far as the Destiny tree goes, you always want the circle. Some people like the Arbiter, go for it. I prefer Transcendence as my supercharge. You barely need to spend any skill points to have a raid ready heal loadout, just because they've made it so optimized and there's a lot of variety. So I just ended up dumping my extra innates into iconics like extra defense, health, power. I mean, I kind of wish there was something else I could buy in here just to make it, you know, more interesting. I tried buying the Amazonian deflection, but it just was not really that good. And I tried buying the hard light shield, but I mean, Boon of Souls is better, and I didn't see the point of having 2 shields on my loadout. There's just really not much to do with your extra power points. If you wanted to buy, I don't know, like random other attacks just to mess around, like the Grand Summiting or, you know, Shard of Life, just to have extra things if you want to switch out your loadout, you can do that as well. I mean, buying 50 defense or buying 100 health like before, I mean, it's okay, I guess, if you have it, but who cares? I mean, it's never going to make a big difference. You're never going to have 100 health that keeps you alive. And that one time that you did have the 100 health that keeps you alive is probably not going to keep anything bad else from happening. Like, if something hits you to 100 health, you're probably going to die from the next hit of whatever else it is. Now, as far as DPS goes, I mean, I'm still kind of a work in progress. Weapon Mastery's really kind of changed a lot. It's only been out like 2 weeks, a week and a half or something like that, and I don't think I've found the perfect combination that I like so far. The loadout as it stands at the bottom is my current loadout. The pet is so good. Like, it's just so much better than it ever was. They did an outstanding job with it. I'm very happy with it. It hits for a ton. It has lots of specials. You look at that, hit for 2 grand, another 2 grand. When you have Red Soul Aura, which is what you get from killing anything near it, which you don't get from the sparring target, so I'm not going to show you a good example there. It hits for even more. I do not use the ability to give it more power back, just because if it runs out of power, I don't care. It'll still hit stuff from time to time, and then it'll build this power back, and then it'll hit for a bunch. I don't see the point of wasting our space on the loadout to have the pet to be able to hit for more when I can just hit a bunch of stuff. Now, it's got lots of dots, as you see. You got the Circle of Protection and the Soul Well, which casts a dot. And if you get something bad karma by hitting it with Weapon of Destiny, or you preferred Karmic Backlash, Shared Fate. I actually use the, which I don't have here on the test server, I use the Karmic Hex consumables just to use a consumable slot on my utility belt. And keep in mind, I only really use it if I'm in the area of the things I'm attacking. So if I'm too far away, don't by wasting them. There's a whole bunch of ads nearby. I'll pop one of the consumables real quick just to give everything bad karma, so it all gets a second dot. See, there's a whole extra tick that you get when something has bad karma. You see it's getting ticked for twice. Well, once a soul well too. So everything should have 3 dots. Now I have my number 3 ability is Transmutation, and my number 5 ability is Vengeance. Those are the 2 abilities I'm going to be hitting when I pull off my Weapon Mastery. It really depends if it's multiple targets or single targets. Because if there's multiple targets, I'm hitting Transmutation, and if it's a single target, I'm hitting Vengeance, just because it's better single target damage, whereas Transmutation is far better AoE damage. It hits for quite a bit in a group of multiple people, and some of the crits that you get are kind of nuts. Now, as far as the power tree goes, I do not have a supercharge, just because I never find myself using it when I had it on the loadout. And I don't have Final Ruin, which was a pretty big change for me, because I kind of been using that guy since the game came out. It's just I couldn't justify, you know, a non-crit Final Ruin hitting for 2k when I've had Vengeances crit for almost 5k. I mean, you get a huge scale for damage when combining it Weapon Mastery with trinket buffs and, you know, supply drop buffs and any other buffs. The fact that this thing can crit for, you know, double what this thing was hitting for without critting, and you could pull it off far more, and it's non-channeled and yada yada yada. I mean, there's all kinds of reasons to not use Final Ruin now, which is unfortunate because I liked it. It's just not necessary anymore. And then no supercharge, I mean, I just wasn't ever hitting it. Like, I would use it and it would do a little damage, but I'd much rather be able to constantly put out consistent numbers than kind of hope that I get a good supercharge when a trinket is down, is popped and a supply drop is down, and I hope I get crits. And not like the supercharges. Also, I noticed, like, unless you're hitting like a one-time boom supercharge, which don't really exist anymore. I mean, Baleful was kind of the one before, but now it's kind of dotty too. So you're never gonna really use it anymore unless like you have like a supercharge just like for group reasons, like a group shield or something like that. Or if you just don't have, like for me, I had to maximize my 6 abilities, and say you only have 3 abilities that you're using and the other 3 you never hit, obviously put whatever you want on there. But for sorcery right now, it just doesn't seem like a necessity. Now, like, this is, again, my loadout's kind of, you know, under construction still. I mean, I'm just kind of going with what works. I did have actually Neo Venom. I was using it until I saw what good crits you can get from Transmutation, because it was just giving you more of a precision buff, more of like just a overall damage buff, plus another weapon dot on top of Weapon of Destiny. I was actually canceling this into Weapon of Destiny and then pulling off pretty crazy chains. There's so much health in the trash mobs in the T6, I just needed to be able to burn them down quicker, and Transmutation is a much better option. But Vengeance is still there because it's still far better. I did some parsing. It's still far better on single target. So I just needed 2 separate Weapon Mastery crit abilities. You know, that might not be like that a couple months from now or a couple days from now or whatever. That's just what I felt was the right call for right now. But if you guys, you know, mess around with Neo Venom, or, you know, mess around with other things that I haven't even considered or given time to, like this shard of life. Like, I mean, I don't even know if that thing's gonna crit because you have to throw something. I don't know. It's weird. I messed around with Soulstorm a little. It was pretty. I mean, Soul Barrage. It was pretty bad. Soulstorm is channeled, so it's not gonna work. If like you jump from Weapon Mastery into a dot, only the first tick of the dot might have the crazy crit bonus. And if you jump from Weapon Mastery into a channeled ability like Final Ruin, it's not like the first hit of Final Ruin might have a crit bonus. So instead of hitting for like 800, it might hit for like 1200 or something. But the second hit is not going to work, and that's the one that's the meat and potatoes of Final Ruin. So I just never felt like it was, you know, that great of an option. So I mean, my loadout currently sits at this, and again, it's still under construction. If you guys, you know, let me know what you're finding out, because it's still, I mean, I work a lot and I don't get as much time to play as I'd like. That's kind of why I gave the game a break for quite a bit. Also, I wasn't too happy with the DLCs, but I'm pretty sure there's people out there that are experimenting far more with it than I am. So just let me know. Give me your thoughts. I am also going to include a link in the description below to a Weapon Mastery forum that my league has on their site in the public part of the forum. So if you guys want to add anything to it, I mean, it's a new forum. There's not much information there yet. But again, it depends when you're seeing this video, whether the day I posted or a year later. So there could be a lot of information on there that you might find useful.